Okay, so we're back for part 2 of the Auro 407 Evolution Revision 1 prototype board continuation of testing on this brand new prototype board. In the first part of the video, if you haven't watched it, please go back, was just voltage testing, so we wanted to make sure all the voltages looked okay before we put any ICs in here, and everything checked out. So now we've inserted all the chips, and I thought I'd give you a little bit of a tour of this board. It looks like your typical 250407 Commodore 64 board, which was actually, I believe, was the most common revision of the motherboard. However, when you look closely at this prototype board, you'll see that indeed there's a bunch of different stuff on this board. There are a lot of headers on this board. You might notice that right away. You'll see all my yellow jumpers in here for that are inserted, and that's kind of a giveaway. So I thought I would start in the corner of the board and kind of just highlight the things that are different about this board and that are not present on the original 407 board. For example, and these are typical things that enthusiasts have added throughout the ages, to facilitate features and improve things like video and audio and stuff like that. So right on the top left of the board, we have a little reset switch right on the board right here. And right to the right of that, there's actually the reset jumper. So there's two jumpers here for reset and ground, because as you know, reset, restore, and XROM are very common jumpers that need to be put in on motherboards when you want to add on cards and things like that, such as kernel switchers and that sort of a thing. By the way, kernel switchers not needed on this board because, as you can see, the ROMs are 28 pin. So this is actually can be up to 8 kernels, and same type of thing for basic, for character ROM and basic as well. So I had mentioned the restore, so there's a jumper for restore also down here on the left of the board, right there. And there's an XROM jumper all the way in the center up on top here. And these are the typical locations that we've grown to expect. However, let's look at some of these other jumpers. Okay, so basically you'll notice this board has a modern modulator replacement, right, built into the board, and it also has a breakout jumper section. So you can grab the chroma, the luma, etc., audio in, audio out, right in here off a jumper. So that's really handy to have. Let's go down the center here, all the way to the middle section of the board, to the old VIC cage, which is no longer here, but still this square right here. And you'll notice there's two oscillators on, 2 crystals on here, right? Okay, so there's both an NTSC and a PAL crystal, and of course they're selectable by jumpers. And these are the jumpers that specifically address that. On the original Commodore board, it was done by jumpers, but kind of, you'd have to add a jumper or cut it, type of a thing on the board. The jumpers in the center right here, close to the SID, of course, have to do with the ability to change over from the earlier 6581 to the later 8580 SID. And so this allows to do things like change the filter settings, most importantly, change the voltage, and that's what these guys do. As well down here, so these 3 jumpers are basically for SID configuration of the 2 types of SIDs. And this jumper down here is for voltage selection for the 2 types of VICs. Just like the SIDs, you had the 6500 series and the 8500 series, the same thing on the VIC. So you can put a VIC basically from the earlier revision boards or you could include the VIC from the later 250469 variant, which was lower voltage, just like the 8580 for the SID. Okay, so that addresses these jumpers in here. The other newer things that you might not see on a typical early Commodore board would be things like there's a little LED down here to let you know that the board is powered up. So you actually don't even have to have the the regular. It has, of course, the regular LED jumper for the case right here as well, but right next to it is a little onboard LED for that purpose. And let's see, what else do we have that I may have? I'm sure I've forgotten quite a few things. Having oh yeah, there's a diode section down here between the two ports. Now I'm going to have to double check on this, but I believe that those diodes are for ESD protection of the ports. I believe, I'm not certain. And speaking of ports, there is one unique thing on this board too. You'll notice that the joystick ports here are the modern right angle equivalents instead of the traditional longer Commodore ones. But this board can take both. So if you have the longer variant that was common on the early Commodore boards, you can use those. That's what these empty pins here are for. Or you can use a modern right angle joystick port. And so that's what that is about there. Everything else is actually pretty normal. I mean, you can use a lot of the components. A lot of the component values are very similar to the 407 board. However, because of the additional features on the board, this board really is a hybrid of a 407, a 466, and a 469. It is so unique in that way, and really a really neat idea. Because it's kind of trying to bring home all the best features of all the different boards. The better video from the 466, the lower power consumption from the 489, and of course the compatibility of the 407, because those were that was, I believe, the most common revision. So it is a neat concept, and this is the 1.0 version. So stay tuned. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the 2.0 or 3.0, or stay tuned and see. But it's really an exciting development, and the most exciting part about it is, I just put together this board and built it, right? I mean, populated it. I did not design it, and want to make sure that's covered. One of the things that has surprised me is how stable this board is. Earlier, I did 60 iterations already, of the diag without any issues whatsoever. In fact, let's run through just a little bit, one iteration of each of the diags, so you get an idea of of how it's looking. So I'll insert the and off we go. I believe this might be the dead test, if I configured all the dip switches correctly. We're going to find out in a minute. So we'll do one run. Yeah, there it is. And this is the extended the STID dead test, which adds some additional features like a SID filter test, and the border changes color with every iteration of the test, so it's kind of neat. It goes in the sequence down here of where you see the the different color changes, the different color palette. So far it looks good. And so right from the go, it seems to be, it's very unusual to have a prototype board, boom, that just works, period, and is happy. But this one is certainly, and that's kind of what has me so excited about the next revisions that the designers are planning. And the video quality is excellent. It's, you know, very, very comparable to my 466 boards. One of the further things I'll be doing on it is testing the PAL. Right now it's on NTSC mode, but I do have okay, and the border changed color, so that indicates that the test completed, and it's on to the second iteration. I'm actually going to power it off and switch it over to the other diag mode, and take it out of Ultimax mode, and here we go. So what I was about to say is I do plan on doing some PAL testing on it as well, and I do have a PAL Vic that I can steal from one of my other boards, and you know, we'll try that. On the other hand, you know, the crystal's already here, so that's, there should really not be much to try except just put in a new Vic chip. Also, I should mention, you'll notice purposely I've included some aftermarket parts here. Like, you know, this is a typical GAL PLA, and this is a back SID SID replacement. Okay, there we go. Now you'll notice it says kernel unknown, and the reason is because all these three ROMs are EPROMs. So these EPROM, and so it doesn't quite know what kernel it is as far as a diag, but it that's very normal, and otherwise it's very, very happy. So. I'm glad to have a sneak preview at this board, and like I said, very excited to see what's coming next, and stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more.